This is a tutorial on how to create a Turnitin assignment in your Course Connect course. The first thing you want to do is go to your course and turn editing on. Once editing is on, select the area that you want to add your Turnitin course to. I'm going to add one under week 1, and I'm going to select Add an Activity or Resource. Here you can scroll down and find the activity Turnitin Assignment 2. The 2 simply means that it's the second version of Turnitin, which is the version that our Course Connect operates with. Select Add. And this brings us to our general settings. The first thing you want to do is give your Turnitin assignment a name. And you can give it a description or a summary as well. And you can choose to display this description on the course page if you would like. The first thing you have to do is decide what kind of submission type you will allow. File uploads allow students to only upload files like PDFs, Google Documents, Word, PowerPoints, that type of file. And a text submission will allow students to type in a field similar to our description box on Course Connect. If you allow any file submission type, this will allow image uploads as well. These submissions cannot be graded by Turnitin because they're image files, but for some disciplines you may want to allow image files anyway. Your maximum file size you should probably leave to the default setting, but if you know that you're going to be receiving files much larger than the default, then you have a lot of options to choose from here as well. Here again, if you choose any submission type, you should change this to yes. And this is where you can choose to display the originality reports to students as well. If for some reason you don't want your students to see their originality report, simply change this to no. Here you can auto refresh grades as you're grading in Turnitin, or you can refresh manually. If you have, say, 100 students, you may want to refresh manually because it'll slow down the system as it automatically refreshes. But if you're working with a smaller class, as many of us at Millsaps are, it's fine to leave this set to automatically refresh. Your assignment start date is automatically set to the day that you create the assignment, and the due date and post date are both automatically set to 1 week later. The post date is the date that students will receive feedback from Turnitin. So once you grade their paper in Feedback Studio, you can set the date that they will receive that feedback, and that is the post date. And it must follow the due date. Okay, that's under Assignment Part 1. Under Grade, we want to leave our type set to point. Our maximum grade, you can change it if you want to, but it's automatically set to 100. And this is where you can categorize your Turnitin assignment. So I'm going to put this under weekly writing assignments for my course. Under originality report options, you can choose to allow submissions after the due date here. Simple yes or no. For the report generation speed, if you choose to submit reports immediately, the Turnitin system won't be able to compare students against each other. So if you're in Feedback Studio, one of the options for the originality report is to compare student papers to other student papers in the class. So if you're worried about plagiarism within your own class, maybe students working together on a project where they shouldn't be and creating some of the same content, then you don't want to generate your reports immediately. You want to generate your reports on the due date. This will allow the system to check all your student papers against one another for plagiarism. You can also choose to generate reports immediately, but allow students to resubmit or not resubmit. That is a personal preference, and you can choose whether you want them to resubmit or not. Under Store Student Papers, if this is a rough draft, you don't want to store them. So you want to select No Repository. If this is a rough draft that they are later going to be turning in a final draft for, and they're rough draft and final draft are both stored in the system will compare their latest draft to their former draft. So you will get a very high markup on their originality report. That may not be accurate because it's comparing it against their rough draft, which is obviously very similar to their newer draft. So these are the three categories that the system checks against. They check against stored student papers, internet sources, journals, periodicals, and publications. You can choose to exclude any of these options if you don't want to check against other student papers in your class. Maybe you're not worried about plagiarism within your own class. You can just change this to no, and you can do the same thing with your other sources. The exclude bibliography option allows you to exclude the bibliography from all of your student papers when the system is checking for originality. This means that when your student gets to their works cited page, the works cited page won't be counted as an instance of plagiarism. If you leave the bibliographies in, all of the citations that students include at the end of their paper will be counted as plagiarism. So this is a way to kind of combat that. And if you change this setting here, make sure it's set on yes. This means that all of your student papers will have the bibliography excluded, whereas if you choose to change this setting in Feedback Studio, you'll have to do it for each individual paper. So this is a personal preference as well, but it does save you a lot of time. You can also choose to exclude quoted material. Now, this can be helpful. However, it has been noted that students could put quotation marks around their whole paper and white those quotation marks out and kind of cheat the system. So it's maybe better to leave this one set to no. You can also exclude small matches. So maybe you're not worried about a quote that is 5 words or less. So if you're wanting to give your students a little buffer, you're not too worried about small matches, you could enter a number of words or a percentage here to exclude from the originality report. Under your grade mark options is where you can choose to upload a rubric. A good place to look for rubrics is Turnitin.com. They have a lot that are already made, and you can download them for free and upload them into the rubric manager without having to do the work yourself. As you can see, I have no rubrics uploaded right now. What you can do is launch your rubric manager. And if you don't want to download a rubric from Turnitin, you can create one yourself by clicking up here in the upper left-hand corner and create a new rubric. This gives you the option to add different criteria, different scales. You can add how many points you want to go up to, as many as you want. You can add as many criteria as you want just by clicking these plus arrows. And you can enter all of the information for your scale and criteria directly into the rubric. You can also change the names, you can change the scores simply by clicking. And if you find that you have too many criteria, it's easy to delete one by hovering over this trash can icon and clicking delete. Okay, that is all of the set. Once you have all of your settings set up, everything under grade mark options is kind of unnecessary to alter. So once you have gone down through grade mark options, simply click Save and Return to Course. And you can see our reflective essay, our Turnitin assignment, is now here. I can show you a few things in the student inbox as well. The student inbox is where you're going to find your students listed down here. They're going to have their submission title, their Turnitin paper ID, when it was submitted, their similarity report, and their grade. You can choose to upload a file for your student. So if for some reason on their end they're having trouble uploading the file, they can send it to you and you can upload it for them by clicking on this little cloud icon. You can also edit their grade here. And You can notify non-submitters that their papers haven't been received yet if you're getting really close to the due date. You can click here to refresh submissions just to make sure no one has turned one in right before you email them. And up here under export, once a student submits a paper, you'll receive three icons under export that will allow you to export originality reports. So you can click on these to download all of your students' originality reports into an Excel file, or you can download them as PDFs. You can also launch your Quick Marks Manager here. You can learn more about Quick Marks in our other video, how to use Feedback Studio. But your Quick Marks are available in Feedback Studio as well as here. The interface is slightly different, but you can, it's pretty intuitive once you start using it. We have a lot of Quick Marks here that you can choose from. Okay. Oh, the paper ID, your Turnitin paper ID, which is listed right here. If there's ever an issue where you need to go to Turnitin instead of to your instructional technologist, you will need the paper ID for your student. The Turnitin doesn't store student names. They instead store paper IDs. And so to correct any issue or a problem that you run across, you'll need that paper ID. Okay, this has been how to create a Turnitin assignment in Course Connect.